How do you feel about Minister Farrakhan's return to New York?
I think it's a good thing. I think that what we need is Ujima, which is unity, whether it's Christians, Muslims, Baptists. I think African men need to get together and do what needs to be done. And I think the brother, along with his program, can help us implement what we need to get across to ourselves as men and our community.
I think it's a good thing. I believe that this is what the community needs to get the families back together, to make the community safe for our women and children, so that we would have no fear of our children being in the street being harmed.
I think it's excellent that the minister is back in New York. We need Minister Farrakhan. Minister Farrakhan is the only man in modern day, or should I say right now, that can bring the black man out of the condition he is in right now. It's just simple, brother. We need Farrakhan. I make money. I make $50,000 a year. I work for the state law enforcement in New Jersey, and I love Farrakhan. You understand that? I love Minister Farrakhan, brother.
I think it's great. It's necessary.
What do you think about Minister Farrakhan coming back to New York?
I think it's needed, and it's right on time, because we need the unifying force for black men who are the strength of our people. And if he can get us all thinking and acting and, you know, in the right way, respectful towards each other, men and women alike, then he's needed here. He's right on time.
Well, right now, I think he's the only one that's reaching out to the community. And just by a show of the faces is here, you can see that he is very, very influential in terms of getting us out and listening to something positive. And right now, this is the only thing that's reaching the black man in the community right now. So I'm here to hear what he has to say and also try to spread the message to the rest of the community.
Yeah. I think it's the greatest.
Thank you.
Glad I'm here to be a part of it. You know, bringing a message that's need to be heard, my brother. And I'm glad I'm here to be a part of it and experience some of this.
What do you think about Minister Farrakhan coming back to New York?
I think it's one of the most important moves that could ever be made. I think, I brought two young men here. I think they need to be a part of this here. I think this is the beginning of something big. And I think we as black men in this town need to rally around him and support him 100%. And don't get sidetracked with all the other mess that we see out here that they're trying to throw into this mix of us all getting together. I think it's extremely important that he's coming back, and I hope he stays, and I hope we rally around him 100%.
This is Men's Night. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan is home in Harlem. It's what your brothers are coming into. Strong military. That right? Yes, sir. That right? Yes, sir. General agree. Yeah. My third general is to report all violations of law Islamic service to the force, sir. General report. Sir, my first general is to take charge of this post and all temporary property abuse, sir. Let be! Let be! Let be! Let be! Let's hear it for the mighty FOI. Let's hear it for the mighty FOI, the fruit of Islam. This is what the Nation of Islam is about. It's about manhood development and training. Brothers, we are grateful for your presence this evening. And we wanted to begin with that drill exhibition so that you can become acquainted with some of the concepts, some of the principles, some of the ideas of an FOI. The FOI is not an army in the traditional sense. We are not a militia. We are not an evil group of men. We are gathered together for a righteous purpose, and that purpose is to eradicate our community of drugs. That purpose is to remove despair and hopelessness from the black community. That purpose is to help restore hope once again in the black community. So when we say you are a soldier in the FOI, you are fighting a war against all of the things that we mentioned before that are killing our people. You need to be a member of that type of army. Moving in to the next phase of this program, we want to bring forth now our brothers who will demonstrate techniques in the martial arts. Some of you say, why do you need to learn martial arts if you're righteous? Yeah, we are righteous, but we don't live in a righteous world. And while we pray to God to defend us, to back us, because we know we have no power but the power that Allah gives us, we are required as Muslims to defend ourselves and to fight with those that fight with us. So we must be trained, but we must be disciplined, and we must remember that Islam is a peaceful religion, and we are never to be the aggressor, but we are obligated by our God Allah to defend ourselves. Now let us bring forth from Brooklyn, New York, from the great dojo called Where Worlds Collide, Brother Anthony Muhammad and the great students from Where Worlds Collide. Let's bring them on with a warm round of applause for our martial arts exhibition.
If you're mad that anybody can step away. Yes, you can keep both tight, man.
Let's hear it, brothers, for our brothers from where worlds collide, Brother Anthony Muhammad and those with him. Brothers, this is indicative of what the FOI is all about. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan is going to teach tonight on what it means to be a black man in this nation of Islam and what it means to be a black man in general. But we want you to know that the FOI, the Fruit of Islam, manhood training, is not just physical fitness, but it's also mental fitness. It's also learning to be a father, learning to be a husband, learning to take care of our responsibilities. This is what the white man's world never taught us, but this is what Islam has taught us under the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. We are grateful for such teacher.
We need to thank Allah for the opportunity to be present here at this historic occasion. Never before in our sojourn in America have this great a number of black men from all social strata, from all stations of life, from all areas of New York, from the East Coast, from the West Coast, from the Midwest, gathered in one building to hear a message for our own redemption and resurrection. On behalf of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, it is my work this evening to thank Allah and thank you for your participation. We appreciate and thank the staff and management of the 369th Regiment Armory for their cooperation with us in putting this event on. Please give them a hand for their welcoming us tonight. I think that New Jersey is in the building tonight. Is that right? Our brothers from Newark and North Jersey. Our brothers from Manhattan are in the building tonight. Is that right? Our brothers from, yes sir, our brothers from Brooklyn are in the house tonight. Is that right? Our brothers from the boogie down Bronx are in the house tonight. Is that right? We got brothers in the house who know that they are sure enough kings from Queens. They're in the house tonight. Long Island Maryland is in the house tonight. Westchester County is in the house. Philadelphia is in the house. Camden is in the house. You get the idea. There's no stopping us when we unite. Let me give you once again our brother who is making a major difference in the city of New York by the bold and uncompromising quality of his representation of the leadership of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, the word and teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the interests of our people who yearn to breathe free. A young man, a fiery man, a man of great character and spirit. Let us receive now our brother in New York, Minister Conrad Muhammad. Let us welcome him back to the rostrum. He will present to us the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. Let's bring Brother Conrad with a round of applause.
Brothers, we thank Allah again for your presence. We can't express that enough. I wish you could be here to see how beautiful this great assembly of men is. It is one of the most awesome sights that I have ever seen in my life. And it is for this reason that we are gathered here. It is for this reason that we must say, without a shadow of a doubt, that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is making a difference in the lives of black people and a difference in the lives of humanity. If humanity would accept the divine word coming from his mouth. He deeply thanks all of the preachers and dignitaries that are present today. We don't have time to recognize all of you. All of you are important. All of you are special, and he thanks you for your presence. And so now, we want to recognize just a few. We can't recognize everyone, but he deeply thanks everyone. We thank Brother Bob Law. He's here with us. Give him a hand. We thank Reverend Calvin Butts. We thank Brother Cool Herc and the rappers. We thank all of you. Brothers, are you ready? We are blessed to have a man in our midst, a man that loves us, a man that is special, a man that has given over 40 years of his life for black people. That's why I don't care what the media says, what the white man says. We know that Farrakhan is a good man, and we have to stand up and defend truth while truth is present in our midst. Are you ready for him? Look at this assembly. It is by the permission of God and God's servant in the midst of us. Let us bring on our leader, our teacher, God's divine servant, a friend of the black man, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. In the name of Allah, thank you. Thank you. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God to whom all praise is due, the Lord of the worlds, the Creator of all things, the Revealer of all truth, the Sender of all prophets. We thank Allah for Moses and the Torah, for Jesus and the Gospel. We thank Him for Muhammad and the Quran. I personally thank Allah for His intervention in our affairs, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, to whom praise is due forever. And I thank this great one for searching in our midst for one to lead, teach, and guide us out of the hell of a 436-year sojourn in a house of strangers. The man of whom I speak is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. To all of you, my dear brothers, I greet you with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. To all of the ministers of the gospel who are present tonight, imams, political leaders, teachers, professionals, intellectuals, and the brothers on the street, the homeless, it is one of the greatest honors of my life to be in New York tonight to speak to you, the men of our community. I want to say to the mayor and to the governor that we have never in our history called a meeting to discriminate against women.
That's right. Yes, sir. Make it plain.
For we as students of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, more than anyone else knows,
yes, sir,
as he taught us, that where there are no decent women, there are no decent men,
right,
and no nation can rise any higher than its women.
That's right, sir.
So we are not discriminatory. We are not discriminatory against women, nor are we trying to be discriminatory against white men. However, when we look at the condition of our community.
That's right. Yes, sir.
It is not white women or black women, for that matter, who are filling the morgues of the cities of the United States.
That's right. Yes, sir.
It is young black men being killed by young black men. And therefore, that tells any human being who loves his people that we have a problem in our community that can't be solved by more police and more jails. But the problem in the inner cities of America can only be solved by more justice, particularly to the man.
Right, right.
So I came here tonight to have a brotherly, fatherly chat with the men. To the best of my knowledge, this is the first time in history that a black man has called together in a city men, black men, and naturally, it induces fear. Some say, and fear, that we will radicalize black men and create mischief in the society. That is not our purpose. Our purpose is to discuss with men how God intends for a man to act. And then let us choose whether we want to act like the product of a slave past or whether we want to act and become the product of God's presence among us. Before our talk is over, I want white America, through the eyes of the lens of these cameras, to see that genocide against black people is not necessary. First of all, it can't happen. And lastly, it is not in the best interest of this nation to kill black men wholesale, nor is it in our best interest for us to kill one another to the joy of those who have already destroyed us and our families. When we go to jail, they separate the men from the women. We don't have integrated jail cells. They don't integrate either the nunnery or the monastery. These are religious orders that deal specifically with the training of women and men to serve the purpose or will of God. In the Nation of Islam, we have a 63-year history of separate classes for men and women, and separate training units to produce a civilized black man and a civilized black woman that we, first of all, can respect and that will command the respect of the nations of the earth. I know that the worst of us can be redeemed. A few years ago, I visited the Cook County Jail in Chicago, Illinois. And after a lecture to the general population, they took me up to what is called death row, where all of the inhabitants of that particular block have lifetime sentences without any chance of parole. And the brother, who was a very big, muscular brother, who was over that section of the prison or jail, said, "Brother Farrakhan, you can't go in that cell. You must talk to these men outside the bars." I said, "No, sir, brother. Yes, sir. I must go inside with them." They said, "Brother, we would not advise you to do that. It is dangerous." Come on. I said, "I will take that chance." Yes, sir. They pressed some buttons and a door opened, and they pressed another button and cells opened, and men walked out of those cells like animals in a cage. And when they came closer to me, I said, "Brothers, let us get some chairs and sit in a circle." There were approximately 17 or 18 men, mostly black, about 4 Hispanic, and 1 or 2 white. I sat them all around me. And as I began to speak to them the words of Allah, within 10 minutes, you could see a change in the face of these men. And I called the brother who was over that cell block. I said, "Come and look at them." I said, "These are not animals. These are human beings who have never been touched by a word that gets them in touch with their humanity or their divinity." When I finished, one of the brothers said, "Brother, can I recite for you a poem that I wrote?" I said, "Certainly." He went back to his cell and got a poem that he wrote, and the poem was magnificent. Too many of us are locked down and too many of us are locked up, meaning locked up in the prison of ignorance that does not allow us to be the men that we know we are capable of being. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad developed a methodology of bringing out of the black man what God has put within, so that we could learn to respect ourselves and to respect one another. He refused to allow us as men in the men's class to front each other off, even playing like we were going to fight one another. My first few weeks in the FOI, I was playing with one of the brothers, and I put my fist up and stuck out a jab, and the captain of the FOI, Brother Yusuf Shah, who was my teacher and my trainer in the FOI, came to me and said, "Brother, do you think you can whip all these men?" I said, "No, sir, brother." He said, "Well, the next time you raise your hand to one, you're going to have to whip us all." Needless to say, I never played like that again. What was the message? Your flesh, your blood is sacred. It's not only sacred to you, but your flesh and your blood must be sacred to all of us, so that we understand that to harm one of us is an attack on the God who created our flesh and our blood and made it sacred to us. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us to refer to one another as brother. Not, "Hey, Jack," "Hey, Jim." We stopped using slang names. Yes, sir. "Hey, Slick," "Hey, Bigfoot," "Hey, Big Head," "Hey, Headquarters." What's happening, Nose? We had to call each other brother because he wanted to reinforce the fact that we are, in fact, brothers. I'm going to prove that in a minute. And as brothers, we should never harm one another. Then the Honorable Elijah Muhammad asked us, as I'm asking you later on tonight, take all the weapons out of your pockets and out of your homes. You don't need a weapon if you have Allah. You don't need a weapon. In a world like this, we all carried something for our protection. But we never knew how to walk with God. But once the Honorable Elijah Muhammad made the knowledge of God clear to us, that he's not some spook way out in space, but he is a reality that is so present that when you call on him, it don't take time to answer. You get an instant answer. Listen, he said we were too ignorant and savage in our behavior to have weapons. Because the moment we make each other angry, the first thing we do is what? Reach for the weapon. We don't reach up for intelligence. We reach in for something to harm our brother. So statistics bear witness that most of the killing that is done in the home. It's done to members of our family, somebody that we are very well acquainted with. But in passion and in anger, after argument over some frivolous thing, we reach for the weapon at hand and do each other in, and then spend the rest of our life regretting what we have done. But if we didn't have the weapon and had a system by which we could settle our disputes one with another, then we could argue our point seeking truth and justice and never have to resort to violence among the brothers. Martin Luther King, in his preaching of nonviolence, was loved mainly in white America because he preached that we should suffer peacefully, while men like Bull Connor were beating our heads. And that if we accepted the technique of nonviolence, we could overcome their hatred by our love. Some of us accepted that. The majority of us, of course, did not. And of course, America has not and will not accept nonviolence as a technique for solving problems. However, I would advocate that that technique of nonviolence has to be instituted among the family members. That we have to make a pledge that we will not lift our hands to harm our brother or sister, and that we will suffer the insult of one another peacefully and will not reach for a weapon to solve a problem between the members of the family. Now, the problem has been, we really have grown so cold that we don't have love for ourselves, much less a fellow member of the family. That is a condition produced by this society. This society is and has been destructive to the black male. This is why it's necessary for us to come together, because the problem of our community is our problem. And unless we as men rise up to take our responsibility, then our women and girls and our children will have no reason to honor us and respect us as the head of our house and the head of our own community. Now, if you will bear with me, I want to deal with some principles that are found in the Quran as well as in the Bible to show the man who the man is, what our nature demands and what our responsibility is, and why America has gone off in not training men separately from women. Now, training men separately from women. We'll get to that. Are we in fact brothers? Yes. The less knowledgeable of us will say, well, look, man, you didn't come from my mother's womb, so you ain't my brother. I don't even like the brother that came from my mother's womb. You know. But the Quran says it like this: O people, keep your duty to your Lord, who created you from a single being and created its mate of the same essence, and spread from these two many men and women. Stop. Allah says He created us from a single being, a single essence. Single. What is the single essence out of which we are created? Allah says that single essence, the single being, is the one God Himself. He created us from Himself. Now, I want you to hear me. And He created our mate from the same essence, which is Him. And from these two, He spread many men and women. What does that mean? That at the very root of our existence, we are family. And at the very root of our existence is God Himself. So without God, Allah, we could not have come into existence. And without God at the root of our lives, we have no existence. And because we don't know Allah, know God, and know ourselves, we don't know one another. Look, when I see you, I know who I'm looking at. There's not one of you in this place that I don't love. I may never have met you before, but when I see you, I know who I'm looking at. I know who I'm looking at. And I know that I have a duty by you And you will never find me disrespecting any of you, because I know who you are. It makes no difference how young or how old. You are from Allah. Listen now. And therefore, the essence of you is Him. I'm going to say that again. You are from Allah. Therefore, the essence of you is Him. So you are not only able to become a human being, but if you evolve properly, you can become an expression of, a manifestation of the divine characteristics of God Himself. Listen. So the Bible says, how can you love God whom you have never seen, and hate your brother whom you see every day? Let's not just say it, let's understand it more. Listen, how can you love God whom you've never seen and hate your brother whom you see every day? Now, the principal words in this is God and brother. And you have love and hate. Two opposites. But God and brother are not opposite. God and brother are similar, but you love one that you've never seen and hate the other whom you see every day. Well, now what Allah is saying to us is, when you hate your brother, in whom is the essence of God, you are hating God. So the question is asked, how can you love God whom you've never seen and hate your brother in whom God is, and you see Him every day? So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, every time I see a black man, I'm looking at God. To some Muslims, that may sound blasphemous. But if you look deeply into it, when I see you, brother, I don't have to wait to bow down to God. I respect Him so much in you, I'll bow to you. You are lesser than He. So if I'm respectful of you, who is less than the Almighty, then I'll never be disrespectful of the Almighty if I'm respectful of those whom the Almighty has created. All the brothers from Brooklyn, will you raise your hand? Thank you. All the brothers from Manhattan, will you raise your hand? All the brothers from the Bronx, will you raise your hand? All the brothers from Queens, will you raise your hand? All the brothers from Staten Island, will you raise your hand? All the brothers from Westchester, will you raise your hand? All the brothers from Newark and New Jersey, will you raise your hand? Now, wait a minute. we different because we live in a different borough? Come on. Are we different because some of us are from Mississippi or Alabama or Georgia or from Jamaica or Dominica or Barbados or Trinidad or Panama or Central America or South America or Africa? Does the land mass make us different when the Quran says that Allah created us from a single essence? He didn't say in the same place or from the same area. I created you from me. So don't talk about where you're from. Talk about where you're really from. You are from Allah. He is your God, and to him is your eventual return. So, are we brothers? Brothers, behold your brothers. Now look, this is your flesh, this is your blood. Some light, some dark, some near white, some with some hair, some with no hair, some with kinky hair, some with curly hair. It ain't the hair that makes you brothers. It's not the color that makes you brothers. It's the origin that makes you brothers. And you and I originate from God. Is that clear? In Islam, Reverend, the Muslim will change his name. The knowledgeable brother or sister may change their name. Caucasian people have named themselves after creation. Listen, Mr. Wood, Mr. Brown, Mr. Fish, Mr. Cutter, Mr. Roundtree, Mr. Green, Mr. Bush, Mr. Brick, Mr. Mud, Mr. Clay, Mr. Lincoln, Mr. Doug Glass, Mr. Walcott. Well, if you wish to name yourself after the creatures, that shows that you came so late that everything was here when you got here and when you saw it. From creation, we came from Creator as a part of Him and creation, then we properly should be named after our Father or our Creator. So when we take a name of God, we are saying we are his family. So the name Muhammad, the name Kareem Abdul Jabbar, the name Rashad, the name Wali. See, these are names that have meaning, and each name is a characteristic of the God, or combinations of his characteristics. Why should God allow man to wear his characteristics if we cannot manifest his characteristics? So if you want to see God walking on earth, then when men submit to God and walk after his word, you don't see men walking anymore. You see God walking in the flesh of men and women. Do you understand me? Now that we have established the fact that we are brothers, and I say this with the deepest humility, your son from your seed and my son from my seed is that I don't have to see this son as my son because he's from my loins. Since you and I and he and your son came originally from God, then your sperm that produces you again is as sacred to me. Therefore, your child is my child, and my child should be your child, and your children are my children, and my children are your children. So all of us have a duty by our families and by our children. Does it make sense? So if your child is not acting right, I can't say, oh, man, that's his child. Ain't nothing to do with that. Your child can't read. Oh, well, he just dumb. That's all. But if your child is my child, and I can help your child to read, then I don't have to say, well, you got to get yours, I got mine. Because we don't live as islands. We live in a world together, and unless we can think more for the whole of us, then each of us can be picked off by the enemy and made of non-effect, and that's exactly what has happened. Now, as a black man or Hispanic man, do we have an enemy? Wait now, wait. Before anybody charges me with hate, do we have an enemy? How do you recognize an enemy? An enemy is one who works against that which is in the best interest of you and the family. Now, if we are in such a condition that we are the #1 haters of self, murderers of self, beaters of self, rapers of self, robbers of self, and destroyers of self, then something and someone has made us enemies of one another instead of making us see ourselves as brothers and family. Somebody did that. Somebody is responsible. And the responsible party is not our friend, the responsible party that did this and then refuses to let somebody who can rectify this have the freedom and opportunity to do it. That is an enemy, or that is the enemy. The Bible says, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. So somebody has willfully deprived us of knowledge so that our ignorance could be a field where the wickedly wise can play in and make merchandise of us because we have been made ignorant. Then anybody that will come with knowledge to impart knowledge to eradicate ignorance is your friend. Now, of course, those who flourish from our ignorance may label your friend and make you think your friend is your enemy. So they use code words
Go ahead. Teach on that.
to create hatred in you for your friend. See? So they made us believe Nat Turner was an enemy because he wanted to fight the oppressor to make us free. They made us think Gabriel Prosser and Denmark Vesey were enemies. They made us think Marcus Garvey was an enemy. They turned us against Paul Robeson and made us think he was an enemy. Even Adam Clayton Powell was made to look like an enemy so that they could get him out of Congress at a time when the brother had such seniority that he could have become the Speaker of the House. Get rid of it. And what they usually do is use one whom they approve of. To beat down those whom they disapprove. To keep you ignorant so that they can remain in power. Now, black man, Hispanic man, black brother, Hispanic brother, we are family. Yes, sir. Let's take a deeper look now at what society has done and what we must now do to get out of the condition that we're in. Together we'll get out of it. Together we'll get out of it. Now let's look. I'm going now to the Bible. God said, after he created the heavens and the earth, parted the waters, created day and night. He said, but there's no man to till the ground. I made the ground, but there's no man. There's no man. There's no man. There's no man. And look, brother, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, whom I have to constantly refer to. Because without that man teaching me and us, there would be no need for you to listen to me, because I would really have nothing to say to you. I'd just be another one of the brothers who was a fool. But I thank Allah for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And your presence tonight bears witness that his teaching is a magnet. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, brothers, that no man to till the ground means that you are already here, uncultivated, undeveloped. You are the ground. You like the earth itself. All the things that we need to be successful is not out in space. It's right here in you. The field is ready. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, big field awaits the wide awake man to work out in. There was a field, but there was no man to till the ground. In the Muslim prayer service, the muezzin, or the caller to prayer, says, Hayya ala salat. Come to prayer, the remembrance of God. Then he says, Hayya alal falah. The scholars translate the word falah to mean success. But success at doing what? The word falah is the basic word for felahin. Felahin are those who till the soil, those who cultivate the earth. Come to prayer, come to cultivation. Without God, you cannot cultivate, develop what God has put within. We need a divine farmer to cultivate the earth. But there was no man. So God said, let us make man. How you gonna make him, God? This is the Bible now. In our likeness, after our image. There's a lot in those words. We can plumb it a little deep, but not necessarily tonight. But let's just say, for the sake of time and brevity, let us make a man in our image and after our likeness means let us make a God less than we. But he's a man. But he'll have force and power like God. And let's give him dominion. Give him rule. Let's give him power so that he can exercise his will in his domain like we exercise our will over the heavens and the earth. Let's make man in our image and after our likeness. Let's give him power and dominion over the fowl of the air, the fish of the sea, and every creeping thing that crawls upon the earth. And let's order them to multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. In my message to you at the Javits Center, we were saying to you, brothers, that any man that is not producing is not living up to the nature in which he's created. Every one of you is a producer. Not some of us, all of us. But look, we weren't brought to America to be made producers. Now that's the critical thing to understand. Brothers, I know it's hot in here. But I want you to be patient because it's hotter up here with the lights and all. But I feel the coolest I ever been in my life being here with you. I'm almost there, brothers. Just walk with me. By bringing us to America to make us slaves, they were in effect interfering with the divine order of God in us to be producers. So since two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time, if the white man is to rule, then in order for him to rule, the power of rulership in us would have to be put to sleep or to death. How do you put to sleep the power of productivity and rule in a whole people? Look, when Adam was made, the scripture says, God breathed into him and he became a living soul. How did you breathe into him, God? If atmosphere is already here and the power in oxygen inhaled by the new life is what energizes the blood and the heart starts pumping, then God did not have to actively intervene to breathe. All we had to do was inhale, and the breath physically came in and started the body to become alive. But no man, listen carefully, is considered alive with just physical breath in his body. The only way we as men are considered alive is if God breathes into us the breath of his life, then we become a living man. Now you got power, listen, and you're going to take dominion, and you're going to become a producer, because if God don't breathe into you, then you're alive from the neck down, but dead from the neck up. So another man puts you to work to produce for him, and you never enjoy the fruit of your labor. And so the black man was made a slave. You could breathe physical breath, but anybody who would breathe into your ears like the physical breath came into your two nostrils, a word from God that would make your mind come alive, the slave master saw that man as an enemy. So anybody that would bring you knowledge was to be put to death. Anybody who would teach you to read would be severely beaten or killed. Any school for you was rejected. So anytime you reject knowledge or keep knowledge from a man, then you're keeping him from becoming a true producing individual. So your manhood, brothers, is not from the navel down. The male organ does not make us men. The male organ says you are a male, but not a man. So many of us are running around with the male organ working well, but from the neck up is not doing too well. So that's why we say manhood training. Look at the word manhood. A hood is that which covers the head. So until somebody dresses up your head, not with a kufi, not with a turban, not with the various beautiful headdresses of our different and wonderful religious institutions, but the kufi, the turban, and the beautiful headdresses represent something that's supposed to be on the inside. My head is wrapped. That's what you're saying. Wrapped in the knowledge of God. My fez on my head says that I am a possessor of high science of God and the universe. So we don't want it to represent what we are not attaining. When we put it on, we should have the activity that goes behind it that gives honor to what we have wrapped our head in. Do you follow me? I'm almost finished. Now, brothers, since slavery, white men have feared the rise of the black man. And it seems as though They have a whole wing of scientists that work to keep us in the condition that we're in. Did you know that the economics of this world has sentenced the black man to death? They don't have, how many of you don't have a job? Would you raise your hands? Raise them high. Thank you. Of those of you who don't have jobs, how many of you have families to support? Question: how can a black man support his family without employment or without money? That's why the drug man enters. That's how we have to think now, use our brain to think up all kind of schemes to make a dollar. Because in this world, if you don't have money, you can't make it. They act as though black men don't have dreams. Black men don't have high desires. You put on television these fine automobiles, these fine homes. You show us the lifestyles of the rich and the famous, as though you don't think that is inspiring us to want what some others have. Particularly since our fathers worked from can't see morning to can't see night, every day of the week and every day of the year for 310 long years to build the economy of families and cities and states in America. And we have never benefited from our fathers' sweat and blood. Don't you think black men want the best for themselves and their families? Of course we do. But if every opportunity for gainful employment is closed to you but open to your wife or your girlfriend, then the very economic structure in America is undermining the black man. Here was a black man, Martin Luther King, and the great civil rights movement working to open doors for us, for women, for others. And on our backs now, they say, okay, since we can't discriminate, we got to hire a minority. We'll hire a black female, and we will have solved both problems. We got a black and we got a minority, which means you're out. Now, brothers, what does it do to you as a man with your wife making more money than you? What does that do to your esteem when you don't have a job and you gotta go to your girlfriend and say, baby, could you buy me a pair of them Nike shoes, you know? Baby, could I borrow the car? I wanted to go downtown a minute. Baby, you got $10? Baby. And she said, oh, honey, sure. So you become like her grown child. And her voice is not soft and sweet, when she talks to you. She don't talk to you, oh darling, such and such and such. Well, my pocketbook is over there. I wish you'd get up and get the hell out of here and get a job. After a while, you ease out of the house. The children don't like you because you can't buy the children the little cheapest toy. Daddy, can I have a Barney? Barney? Daddy, could you take us to Toys R Us? So you ease out the house. You down on the corner with the other brothers who are not working either. You in the barber shop or in the pool room talking stuff. You want to be a man, and you get to the point where you lose all hope. And you don't expect nothing better than what you got. You live in a project house and your mother lived there and your grandmother lived there, so you say, oh man, I'm not gonna get out of this. You don't even expect to get out of the condition that you're in. And now you're filled with despair, anger, and bitterness. And you begin to hate members of your own family who seem to drive a nice car. They come in the hood, look like they're showing off. So I'm gonna jack them. How you get that car and I ain't got none? You must be doing something right that's wrong. So I'm gonna jack you up. You become so angry, so bitter, so filled with self-hate that a man can come in your community and sell you a gun. That is a reject out of the factory. But you don't know how to tell that it is not up to par. And when you put it in your hands, it gives you a sense of power. God said he would give you power, and they sell you a beat-up piece, and now you feel you got power. And you do have a sense of power. But because of the condition of your mind, you stop at a gas station, you see a brother with his girlfriend driving up. They're real happy. He just got a new Blazer. All right, I got this. Move over. If you open your mouth, you're dead. This just happened in Chicago recently. Took the brother and his girlfriend to a remote place. Then 2 or 3 brothers with guns raped the girl and then shot her in the head. Made her boyfriend watch. Then shot him in his head and then got in the Blazer and were driving around in the suburbs, joyriding, when the police saw these black men in this new car looking kind of roguish and stopped them routinely. 17 and 18 years old, but cold killers of one another. This is going on in every major city in America. Now, brothers, we as black men are being looked at as a nation of animals, as mad dogs. And don't you know, or do you believe that there are plans being made to deal with us? Why do you think they brought the guns in the community in the first place? You know, white folk have never wanted to see you with a gun. Why are they bringing them to you now? Come on, let's think now, let's think. Why are guns available to black men today when they did everything in their power to keep guns out of your hand all these years? Now every one of you can get a gun if you want one. Not only are you programmed for self-destruction, but there are those who have us so programmed that now the biggest talk on television and radio, in the newspapers, in the halls of Congress and in state legislatures is, what are we going to do about crime? Crime cost America last year over $420 billion. They said 48% of New Yorkers last year was touched in some way by crime. So mayors are now calling for the National Guard because the police say it's out of our control. Wrong! The police have enough firepower, backed up by National Guard and federal forces, to stop any insurrection or madness. But what they want is the level of violence to become so great that we call for our own destruction. Then, all over the world, we are seen by Europe, by Asia, by Africa as a land of savages, so that when they start killing us wholesale, they will show the guns that we had to justify the heavy caliber machine guns and armored personnel carriers and tanks that they had to bring in our community to deal on us. And there won't be an outcry anywhere in the world, because the world has already been prepared for the slaughter of black men in the streets of America. Brothers, by the grace of God, we can head this off. By divine providence, I was blessed to come to the Javits Center. By divine providence, I asked the question of the black men in that audience: would you help me to make our communities a decent place to live? And by divine providence, you stood and you said, yes, Brother Farrakhan, we will do it. And so I proposed a meeting of black men, and here we are. But it's bigger than us in this room tonight. Each one of you is now being deputized to help save our people, not just in New York, but if we can do it in New York, which is the capital of Black America, we can save our nation all over the country and send a signal throughout the world. Brothers, this is a sacred gathering tonight. Go ahead. Go ahead. And the destiny of Black America will be in our hands tonight. Go ahead. We're in Harlem. Go ahead. Mecca for Black America. Go ahead. As Harlem goes, so goes the whole black world. I'm asking you, New York, to accept the challenge. I'm asking you, New York, to let's make New York a pilot project. If we can clean up our community in New York, then we can do it all over America. I'm going to ask the aid of all of the leaders, preachers, imams, congressmen. Why? Because if you accept to discipline yourself and to, as of tonight, to make a commitment to clean yourself up just a degree tomorrow than what you are tonight. We, your brothers, are not doing anything that you can't do, and do even better than we are doing it. We are before you to show you what can be done when black men in the name of God decide that we want to make a change in our lives. We were drug pushers. We were drug users. We were pimps and hustlers. Many of us accepted Islam in prison. We were murderers and lowlifes. And some of us were college men and musicians and of a higher caliber. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was able to inspire us to put the heroin down, to put the pipe down, to put the reefer down, to put the bottle down, to put the cigarette down, to put the pork down, and clean up our lives. For what purpose? So we could walk around and say, you know, I'm holy. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't gamble, I don't, oh, please. We don't smoke because that's suicide. It's slow death. Death is the enemy of life, and it will overtake every human being. But why rush it? See, when you're hopeless, you don't care. Well, I'm going to die anyway. You're telling the truth. You are going to die anyway. But why end it like this? Go out in a cloud of smoke. I puff myself to death. Lungs destroyed, blood destroyed. You on a pipe with crack. You think that's just affecting your brain? That's affecting your sperm. So when you go out and produce a baby, the baby is affected by what you do, so the sins of the father are visited on the children. The children are innocent, but because we are destroying ourselves, we are also destroying our future. I didn't come here tonight to change your religion.
Go ahead.
If you're a Christian and you're happy, that's fine with me. If you're a Hebrew and you're happy, that's fine with me. If you're Muslim and you're happy, that's fine with me. If you don't have no religion and don't want one, that's fine with me. But as black men, we have to change our behavior and become real men. We have decided, with your help, to make New York a pilot project. This is not my last time here, but brothers, there are meeting places. We got to continue this. God willing, I'll be back in a month to check on our progress through this month. Are you serious? Don't leave, brothers. Don't leave. We're almost finished. But don't leave yet. Let's be dismissed properly. Will you do that? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to share with you what we propose to do with your cooperation. We now have to be trained and organized to be effective in all our communities to get our young men away from crime and violence into productive life. We can't do it for them unless we can do it for you. You ready? Now here's program. Next Saturday, we want to start the process of training. Now you saw the brothers drill tonight. We're not here to make you the best drill team in the world. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, and I believe it's right, that the black man is militant by nature. We are all soldiers, old or young. And when you put black men in ranks and give them close order drill, you begin to develop what they call esprit de corps, the spirit of a body of men to accomplish a certain task. You're training the men not just to respond to orders like a robot, but you're training the mind to discipline the body to righteous command. That you are the master of this. Not this, the master of you. The martial arts. We weren't here to terrorize people with martial arts. Because today, people stand off at a distance. And with all your heart, it blow you down before you can get out of the pocket, out of the chamber. So that's not what it is. We're going to be going among our people. And you can't go among your people the same way you are. You've got to be a magnet to them. We're going to be dealing block by block in our community, talking to our people, causing them to see a better way of life, whether it's Christian, Muslim, whatever. God is involved in it. God is involved in it. Listen, brothers, breathing the breath of life into you means putting in your ears the wisdom of God. That's what makes you a living soul and gives you power over your life. You know, brothers, I don't like to hold myself up as some kind of an example, you know, because although I appreciate deeply your honoring me by standing and your applause, you see, in truth, all praise belongs to God and all honor belongs to God. But brothers, I'm a student of a teacher who breathed into me a word that had three components: light, life, and power. And when I inhaled those words, I stopped being Louis Walcott and I became Louis X, with a purpose for my life beyond the satisfaction and gratification of my own personal desires. But I had a purpose to see all of our people free. And it started for me right here in Harlem at the old Liberty Building on 116th Street and Lenox Avenue, where Marcus Garvey used to teach and where Malcolm X was the minister. And there I decided that I wanted to be a man like the men I saw at the mosque. I didn't have a father, brothers. I was reared by a strong, strong black woman. But I never knew my father. I never saw his face. I never saw even a picture of his face that I would even remember what my father looked like. So my mother had to be for me as your mothers had to be for many of you, male and female. There was no man in my life until I met the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. That's the truth. That's the honest to God truth. But when I heard the teaching, it struck a chord in me like this message struck a chord in you tonight. And I wanted to make a change in my life. I had a reefer in my hatband. Because the Muslims searched, but they didn't peel back the hatband, and that's where my reefer was. I had to keep it close to my head. I'm not going to tell a lie. I wasn't no druggie. I wasn't a drinker. I drank, a little to be sociable. But I didn't get involved in that. I like to see my head sober. I like being sober. I like being in control. I didn't like being high and out of control. So it was easy for me to give up reefer, to give up liquor, to give up pork. The hardest thing for me to give up was a cigarette. That had a greater hold on me than the reefer. But I was able to give it up. And brother, within 30 days, I saw a change in me. I was a calypso singer working out on Long Island. I had a calypso song on the hit parade in New York for 5 years straight. Yeah. But Elijah Muhammad asked me to give it up. And I gave it up to accept a word. I didn't know where the word was going, but I had a family, brothers. And I had to feed my family, and I was not going to steal. So I took a job. I never did good working days. I worked hard at it, but it just didn't seem to work, Every job I had, they fired me, truthfully. Not because I was late, not because I was bad, but because I just wasn't cut out for that, evidently. And Malcolm called me one night and asked me if I would just stand up on Wednesday night and say what Islam had done for me. And when I spoke, the audience was excited. And Malcolm said, he's minister material. And that night, he made me an assistant minister. I came up through the ranks as a lieutenant, as an assistant minister. Then I became a captain of the mosque in Boston, then minister, and came up through the ranks. Many of you were in the mosque with me. When I was sent here after the unfortunate assassination of Malcolm X to be the minister, I came out of Boston to the Big Apple, the city of my birth, but not the city where I grew up. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to me, I'm burning the bridge behind you. If you don't make it in New York, I'm not sending you back to Boston. I'll send you out in the sticks somewhere. He said, New York will either make a man out of you or a boy out of you. And I intended to be a man. And by the grace of God, we worked in New York. And I'm not ashamed to say we produced the most powerful helper of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad of all the mosques in the country Mosque number 7, New York City, and many of you brothers out here in this audience, you helped the Honorable Elijah Muhammad lay the foundation that these new ones are standing on today. They have not suffered like you suffered. They don't know the trials and tribulation that we went through in the early days to establish this message. But because of you, they're here today. And I teach all of them to honor and respect you wherever they see you, no matter what your condition is, that you laid the base for them to stand on today. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed from us, the nation took on a change. And everything that we sacrificed our hard-earned dollars to build was destroyed. We lost it all. We lost it all because we broke faith with the man through whom we got it all. Nobody wants to believe they've been deceived or lied to. But to tell people that Elijah Muhammad deceived us, lied to us, tricked us, made many who loved him to turn cold. And the object of that was to destroy the reputation of Elijah Muhammad, that we would take the body of knowledge that he had given us and throw it away. And when we threw it away, we threw life away. So 3 years, I labored and suffered mentally to see this nation that we built turned upside down. I was poor and raggedy. I had no money, nothing. People thought I was a millionaire. The liars said I had ripped them off. But God is my witness. I have never taken as much as a dime or as little as a penny. For the 20 years that I worked as a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I never asked my leader to give me a dime. He gave me a field to work, and he gave me knowledge, and I said, I'll work that field until my change comes. I want you to listen. When Elijah Muhammad became a hated man, I, as his spokesperson, was hated because I brought many of you to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we watched the nation die. And because the nation died, there was no hope for black men. So our death produced the decline, the moral decline of the community. And many of us with knowledge went back into the street to become hustlers and drug pushers and criminals and lowlifes with the knowledge of God in our heads. But there would come a time when I said, I can't let my leader's name be written out of history. I can't let a man that meant so much to so many, who did so much for so many, who suffered so long for so many, be written out of history because some aspect of his life was misunderstood by members of his family or by his ministers. So I decided, with the help of God, to rebuild the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I had no money, nobody with me, but one brother. I didn't steal followers from Imam Warithuddin Muhammad. I didn't go around trying to get people to follow me. I decided I would stop, and whosoever will, let him come. And I began to work. There was no man. The field was there, but there was no man. And I said, well, God, here am I. Send me, I'll go. I don't mind dying, but I gotta see the black man live again. Difficult it was to lift up Elijah Muhammad's name in that hour, because love had turned to hate, and the hearts of the people had waxed cold. But I went on regardless. Go ahead. I went to the ministers and asked them, will you help me? The ministers of Muhammad. And they said, we ain't helping you. So Allah was with me. The older brothers, some of you brilliant ones in here, had been hurt so deeply, you didn't want to try again. You said, well, maybe so, Farrakhan, but I ain't coming, man. So I had to go in a field and take young men that were neophytes, that were new, they had no experience, to help me get the nation back up again. Go ahead. With the help of God and the charity of the believers, we got back the homes of Elijah Muhammad. They're not mine. My name ain't nowhere on it. Go ahead. I gave it all back to you because that's who it belongs to. The mosque is yours. Go ahead. The sales and office building, we got it back. It's yours. We're building the Salam again. It's yours. I want to show you that nothing you did yesterday was in vain. It was all in preparation for the rise of a nation, not a few people. Some of my Muslim brothers from the East offered me millions of dollars not to raise up Elijah Muhammad's name. If I were after money, I would have took their money and gone and got quiet. But I'm not after money, I'm after you. I know if you rise, the future is great for all of our people. But if you remain as you are, we are all sentenced to death. The government on me. Right now, they're preparing to destroy Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. Right now, they want Farrakhan dead, not alive. They want to use my brother Khaled's words against me and divide the house as they did in 1964. These same enemies are so terrified that over 10,000 black men stood up and thousands had to be turned away tonight. They're terrified.
Go ahead.
We gotta stop that nigger, they say. We gonna kill that nigger, they say. Oh, but America, I warn you. Dear brothers, while I appreciate you calling my name, Farrakhan is born to die, but Allah is the ever-living. And therefore it would be more appropriate if you said, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. That's the cry. We know that members of the Jewish community are the most organized, rich, and powerful, not only in America, pardon me, but in the world. They don't want Farrakhan to do what he's doing. They're plotting as we speak.
Go ahead.
They want to use some of our brothers. And some of our brothers are willing to be used to curry favor with them against the rise of our people. But I'm saying this to you to say this. I'm not trembling. I'm not afraid. I know, and I want you to know, that I could never have done this without Allah's divine help and intervention. Farrakhan can't do this kind of work. This is the work of Allah, and you must recognize Allah's hand when you see it.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So it is not me that the government is fighting. They are fighting God. Now, this body of men can save a nation. We want to breathe into you the knowledge that was breathed into us, that you, like we, can strive to become men that our wives and children will love and respect. My wife of 40 years loves her husband more today than she did 40 years ago, because I am more of a man today than I was 40 years ago. My children, all 9 of them, stand with me.
That's right.
and work with me for the elevation of black people, male and female. So, I don't want this to be a one-night happy night.
That's right.
And then we go back to business as usual. In this audience tonight are some of the most brilliant and prepared black men in the city of New York sitting right here tonight. But what good will our brilliance do if it is not used and shared, that all of these young men will be as brilliant as some of you who have this brilliance? Brothers, without money, of course we got to get the knowledge first, right? And the training of how to use the knowledge. But without money,
Go ahead.
this ain't gonna work.
That's right.
We can't tell a man is making money selling drugs, put down the drug, if you don't give him something to pick up on. You ought to know, brothers, that Caucasians are not going to open their factories for you. So unless we are prepared to create jobs for ourselves, it's not going to happen. Are you listening? Well, you may say, oh, that's real difficult. No, it's not.
Go ahead.
The only difficulty is the difficulty in getting past negative thinking. That's the difficulty. Brothers, 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 if we don't have any job, then we must create a job. And the way we create jobs is take what you got. What is what you got? You.
Yes, sir.
And then train you to become a master salesman. Listen, 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 just listen. Every day we're selling something. Brother, when you go into a neighborhood and it looks hostile, you pull your collar up, put your hand in your pocket, and put that walk on. What you selling? You selling a ticket. You telling them, don't mess with me. I'll cut you too short to sit down. When you dress up and you go in the disco, you're selling. You want people to recognize you. We have in this audience tonight master salespeople. So you got yourself. Now all you need is to grow the knowledge and the technique, and then we put a product in your hand, and then street by street, we not only go to discipline our community, but we go to offer our community something that our community needs, that will put money in our pocket, that we will be gainfully employed. Now you let us work out how to put the product in your hand. We'll work that part out. But all I want you to do is commit yourself that you are willing to work to make an example for the hopeless. That you came, you heard Farrakhan, and you said, man, I'm going to make a change. And the people outside, they're going to say, oh, them jive turkey. But when they see you make the move and become successful, they say, hey, man, when's the next meeting? Now, I was hoping that we got the names. Do we have the names of everybody here? Huh? Wait a minute. Don't tell me I got the name if I don't have it. Do you all have a form? How many don't have a form? What is it? On the way out. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No on the way out, nothing. No, sir. Because I know if we wait till on the way out, we'll never get it. I want your name, your real name. I mean, I know the name that you're going to put down ain't your real name. If it's Johnson or Jones or Crow or Bush, you understand? But I want to be able to contact you because I'm going to write you personally tonight. And I want to take the tape of what we say tonight and mail it to you. Free of charge. And I want you, when you get the letter, there'll be instructions in it. And the tape, I want you, each one of you, to gather some brothers.
Yes, sir. Beautiful.
In the car, in your home, and put the tape on, and you and the brothers talk about it. So that when we meet again 30 days from now, when I come back, I want you to bring the brothers that you shared the message with so we can take it up another notch. Now, the Armory is the biggest place that they got beside the stadium. However, if the government understands what we are attempting to do, the government should aid us and give us the Armory for 5 days, 3 days, how many ever days it takes to reach the many that we can start the process of training. You will be given a form tonight. Please listen. The Bronx, on this Saturday morning at 10 a.m. in the Fulton Terrace Community Room, the Bronx Brothers. Meet there at 10 a.m. We'll meet you to start the process of getting ourselves ready to clean up our community and make it safe for all our people. In Manhattan on Saturday morning, we'll meet at Mosque number 7. Here's the address. In Westchester, Bright Hope Lodge, we'll meet there. In Queens at IS 8. In Long Island, the Wyandanch Public Library. In Brooklyn and Staten Island, we'll meet at When the Worlds Collide, 53 Flatbush Avenue. But we got to get started seriously now to clean ourselves up, clean our communities up. And when I come back 30 days from now, we want to talk about the products that we will put in your hands to help you increase your standard of living. The training units that you and I will train in, that will make us ready to make New York a safer place. And listen, when we reduce crime and violence in our communities in New York, then New York will be held up as the light for the whole of Black America. Then we'll move on Philadelphia, Newark, Baltimore, Washington, Dallas, Houston, Chicago, Detroit. But we must make it succeed in New York. And so in my conclusion, don't move, brothers. In my conclusion, I don't think it's an accident that Allah brought me back to New York. And I don't think it's an accident that so much brilliance is sitting in this audience tonight that is willing to work to raise all of us as men up, that we may take our proper and rightful place at the head of our homes and families. So please, brothers, make sure that we get your names, your address, and watch the mailbox for the letter and the tape that hopefully will be coming to you within a week. Now, before we leave, do you think that this night was worth your time? What I'd like you to do, if you would just stand, please. Brothers, I would like for you to take a pledge tonight. Listen to the words. Quiet, please. Listen to the words. I repeat your name. Pledge to strive to love my brother as I learn to love myself. Your name. Pledge to strive to learn. To improve myself. Spiritually. Mentally. Morally. Education. For the good of myself. My family. And my people. Your name. Pledge to strive to make my community a better place for us to live. To make it safe for our women, our children, our elderly, and ourselves. Your name will strive from this day forward to be a man in the likeness of God, with power to change the reality under which you live. Now, brothers, we are taught that our word is God. You have given me your word, and I give you my word. I pledge and as long as Allah puts life in my heart, that I will work for the total uplift, freedom, justice, and equality for our people in America and Africa, wherever they are found on the earth, and lastly, to make all human beings brothers in the way of God. That's my pledge to you.
All right. When God has made us all one. Brothers, are we brothers? Will you never hurt your brother again? Then, before you leave, take a minute.
Yes, sir.
Brothers and sisters, for me to brothers and
Beautiful. Yes, sir.
brothers and sisters,
Yeah. Beautiful. Wonderful.
just take a minute. Just greet each other and understand when we say prayer, it's always just greet each other. And I want the cameras to show this brotherly and go out in the street. Let your spirit walk out in the street.
That's right.
The police mistakenly called came to the mosque. And an incident took place.
Yes, it did.
Our thanks to the community.
Yes, sir.
For standing so strongly with Mr. Conrad and his team come forward. Our thanks to Reverend And he's not here because he's not winning. He is down with this. He said, wherever this will be, he's going to win. So, Reverend Johnson, while Paul was here earlier, Gary Bird, and the Colonel of the Armory is here. In the VIP section, Commander Anthony Spencer. Where's Commander Spencer? Commander Spencer, could you come forward, please? And he has invited us
Yes, sir.
He's invited us to now, brothers, it cost us so much to make this night possible. $15,000 plus. Give me the exact actual facts. $22,000. We raised $9,000 from the charity tonight. Brothers, if you can, and I know we can, some of us that are able, would you be so kind on the way out, there'll be receptacles? Wait.
Brothers with the receptacles, you need to go to the doors right now. Yeah, go while we're getting ready for prayer. Because you can pray with the bucket in your hand, one eye in the bucket. The guardians, come forward, please, sir. Brother Eric, thank you. We could never have been successful without our brothers on the police force standing with us. We thank them. We thank them. Thank you. Thank you, brothers. Thank you. Thank you, cousin. Thank you, brother. Vernon, good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Brother, it's good to see you. Thank you. Man, together we just can't be defeated. Let's have prayer. Now, brothers, if you have those forms, please fill them out so I can get a chance to correspond directly with you and send you your tape. And don't forget, if you have an extra $1 that would defray the expense of this, because that's coming out of the mosque treasure, and that money was earmarked for something else. But we had to have this meeting. It really is free, but nothing that we got here is free. That screen, the sound, the stage is $12,000, just this. And I thank the sound man. He did a good job. Could you hear us all over the armory? He did an excellent job. Thank you very, very much. You did an excellent job. And we will be back to get you again next time, God willing. And where's Brother Muhammad Aziz? Come on up here, Brother Muhammad. Brother Muhammad Aziz, you'll get to know a lot about this brother. This is the brother that was falsely accused of the murder of Malcolm X. And they sent him to prison for 26 years for a crime that he really did not commit. And he remained strong in faith, although he suffered much. And I thank Allah that he's alive and well and super strong and ready to do the job that Allah has already prepared him to do. Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Muhammad. Thank you. And so many of these wonderful Muslims that I know, there's giants in here, brilliant giants who can teach us all something, sitting right down front here. May Allah bless you, brothers. You got a big field here. Let's raise the level of consciousness of our people. Now that brother over there, don't I know you with the red scarf? Is that Brother Aubrey? What's your name, sir? Martin Perez. Mark. Yes, sir. And all our Hispanic brothers, raise your hands. Raise them high, brothers. Thank you. Brothers, spread the word. No more should black and Hispanics be involved in wars and fights against each other. That's wrong, brothers. Don't let the enemy be happy over our destruction. We are what? Brothers. Brothers, prepare for prayer in the manner that we've been taught. Your head slightly bowed, eyes closed. قل أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم الصراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. Thee alone do we worship, thine aid we seek. Guide us on the straight path, the path of those upon whom you have bestowed favors, not the path of those upon whom wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray. O Allah, we thank you for this meeting this evening in this place. We thank you for each and every one of these your servants who came tonight, not at my call, but at your call, that you may feed life into this body of men, that we may go forward to make our own communities a decent place to live. Now, Allah, we ask that you go with each one of us and take us safely back to our places of abode. Bury your word deeply into the hearts of each one, and let your word bring up new life in us and give us power over the things that have made us a mockery. We ask all of these things in your name. Ameen. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. That means God is great, and so are you. Thank you for listening, brothers. Until we meet again, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Thank you, brothers. Thank you. Thank you, cousin. Thank you, brother.
The Honorable Louis Farrakhan. Brothers and sisters, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. Brothers, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan asks that we embrace each other. Take time to meet your brothers. Greet your brothers on the way out the doors. We remind you that the Armory is an older building, and in your exits, please take your regress and your exit carefully.